Picture this. It's the middle of the night. No streetlights, no phone, no locks on the door because there is no door. Just trees, darkness, and sounds you can't identify. Now imagine that night is every night, forever. No walls, no alarm systems, no way to call for help. Just you, your group, and the dark. We ask a lot of questions about ancient humans, what they ate, how they slept, what they did all day. But we rarely ask the question that probably mattered most to them. What kept them up at night? What made their hands shake? What made their hearts race? What did ancient humans fear the most? Some of the answers will feel familiar. Some will genuinely surprise you. And one of them will make you realize you have more in common with a human from 50,000 years ago than you'd ever expect. Let's start with the most obvious one, and the most misunderstood. The night. Today, darkness is uncomfortable. We sleep with nightlights. We fumble for the switch. We leave the TV on just to have some glow in the room. But for our ancestors, darkness wasn't just uncomfortable. It was a death sentence. Think about that for a second. On the African savannah, 100,000 years ago, when the sun went down, the rules changed. Every human who wasn't close to a fire became prey, and fires go out. That's why archaeologists find fire remnants in virtually every ancient human campsite ever discovered, not just for warmth, not just for cooking, but to hold back the dark, to draw a line between them and whatever was out there. And here's something worth sitting with. Your fear of the dark isn't irrational. It's not childish. It's ancient. It's coded into your DNA by hundreds of thousands of years of night survival. The humans who weren't afraid of the dark didn't survive long enough to pass on their genes. The ones who were afraid, they stayed close to the fire. They stayed alive, and eventually, they became you. But if the dark was terrifying, there was something worse, something you couldn't see coming, something you couldn't run from, something you couldn't fight: disease. Imagine living in a world where someone in your group wakes up one morning wrong, glassy eyes, body shaking, skin burning to the touch, and you have no idea why. You have no concept of bacteria, no concept of viruses, no concept of infection. To you, this person has been touched by something invisible, something with no name and no face. And here's what's fascinating. Almost every ancient civilization developed its own explanation for disease, and that explanation was always roughly the same: a spirit, a curse, the wrath of a god. Not because they were ignorant, but because the idea that a mindless, invisible thing could randomly kill you was even more terrifying than an angry deity with intentions. If it's a spirit making you sick, you can negotiate, you can make an offering, you can perform a ritual, and maybe be spared. But if it's just randomness, a microscopic organism that picks you for no reason at all, that's a fear you can't answer. And the human brain hates that more than almost anything. Now, this next one might surprise you because it's not a predator, it's not a plague, it's not lightning or a flood. It's being rejected by your group. That might sound almost small compared to being eaten alive in the dark. But stay with me. And modern brain science reveals something extraordinary. Social rejection activates the exact same regions of the brain as physical pain. Not a metaphor. Not "it hurts emotionally." Literally the same neural circuits lighting up on a brain scan. When you feel left out. When you send a message and nobody replies. When you're not invited to something and you find out later, you feel real pain. Not imagined. Real. Because for hundreds of thousands of years, that pain was your most urgent warning signal. Being pushed out of the group didn't hurt your ancestors' feelings. It killed them. So they did everything to fit in, to be useful, to never rock the boat, to agree even when they disagreed. And if you've ever wondered why it feels so hard to speak up, to set boundaries, to go against the crowd even when you know you should, now you have your answer. That's not weakness. That's 300,000 years of evolution telling you, stay in the group, whatever it takes. But underneath all of it, behind the darkness, the disease, the exile, there was one fear deeper than the rest, more fundamental. A fear shared by every human who ever looked up at the sky and wondered what was on the other side. The fear of the unknown. Why does the sun disappear every evening? Will it come back tomorrow? Why did the river flood this year when it didn't last year? Why did the chief's wife die in childbirth when everyone else survived? Questions with no answers. In a world with no science, no books, no search engine, just the feeling that the world could turn on you at any moment for reasons you'd never understand. And here's where something deeply, unmistakably human shows up. Faced with a fear it couldn't name, the human brain didn't say, "I don't know," and move on. It invented an answer. Gods, spirits, rituals, myths, stories passed from one generation to the next, carrying explanations for the things that had no explanation. Not out of superstition, out of psychological survival. Because a random, uncontrollable world is mentally unbearable for a human brain. So we give it meaning, even when we have to make that that meaning up. And you still do this. Right now, today, when something bad happens to you and you can't explain why, your brain immediately starts looking for a reason, a cause, someone to blame, a lesson to extract, some kind of logic that turns chaos into a story you can live with. That's not a flaw. That's the direct inheritance from ancestors who simply could not afford to live in total uncertainty. So, what did ancient humans fear the most? The dark, the disease, being cast out, and the terrifying possibility that nothing makes sense. Here's what strikes me about all of this. We've eliminated the nocturnal predators. We've identified the viruses and bacteria. We've built societies of billions so that no one ever has to truly be alone. We've solved, at least technically, almost every single thing our ancestors feared. And yet, we still hate the dark. We still panic at illness. We still do almost anything to avoid being left out. And we still spend our entire lives searching for meaning in things we don't understand. 10,000 years of civilization, the same circuits firing. Maybe the real question isn't what ancient humans feared. Maybe the real question is, have we actually changed at all? If this made you think, the algorithm actually notices when you watch all the way through, so thanks for doing that. And if you want to go deeper into the ancient human world, I've got videos on what they ate, what they did at night, and what they thought happened after death. See you in the next one.